This is part 3 of my Hope series, and I'm also explaining my faith journey. So, hello, I just want to let you know that I appreciate your patience. So, it's going to be a long series. I lost a bracelet earlier, which didn't seem like a really serious thing, but I just really loved the bracelet. And when I found it again a few hours ago, well, about an hour ago, I was so overjoyed that the place I was looking in, I just couldn't see it, even though it was in the place I was looking in. And then suddenly I had to dig a deep, and suddenly I felt it. So if that's ever happened to you. But the Lord was just ministering to me before our prayer meeting at ICP Global on Zoom, that's how he feels about his people. He was ministering to me that that's how the Lord feels when someone hasn't yet come to him that doesn't know him, you know? And, so it's like losing a precious thing, that he loves and he can't find it yet. And it really does mirror onto my journey, because knowing this, in the middle of recovering from these illnesses that the medical profession were deliberately not completely lying about, but just not giving me enough clarity to get enough help from them. They were still leaving me in the private market, because what they were diagnosing wasn't enough for me to do something constructive about it. So I felt left in limbo with this, and I also knew that I had a kind of lymphoma as well, because whenever I didn't take any thyroid treatments, I was just tired all the time, deflated physically, and then the treatments I was taking was not working that well. And so I recently started to take a supplement, and I started to just feel $1 million with that, but these legions were still eating the side of my head alive. And my question to God was, if he's been healing different things, then why didn't he just do the whole lot all at once? Why has he still not done the thing that I'm pining for? Because here's me repenting about not taking my music gift seriously enough and feeling like I wasn't good enough. And yet it was really holding me back that I was in pain for long hours of a day. So therefore I couldn't take it seriously, I was forced not to. And I still have loads of songs on standby that I'm longing to write. It's really frustrating. So my question to the Lord was, why has he if he's going to heal bits of me, he showed me to take thyroid complex, he healed celiac illness, he helped me quit smoking, why didn't he just do the whole lot all at once, And the Lord was showing me as I worshipped him, the reason he couldn't do it all at once, because I was also the victim of a smear campaign, and it got pretty nasty. It got very nasty, to the point where people were trying to destroy me for telling the truth and making it look like I wasn't thinking clearly. And it ties in with, I decided to do evangelism because of the way the Lord felt about losing his precious things. So I made these beautiful tracks, which I printed them off from the JD for our website, because they've got hundreds of designs of the ABCs of salvation. And I really love making those, printing them off and laminating them, making them shiny, and then putting them in little packs and I was really enjoying doing this during my no pain hours. And then I was making up these beautiful little gift packs with a little tea in it and a little biscuit, or a little sachet of coffee and the little card in it, and then maybe a card from this church because you can't go all the way to Hawaii. They have to choose one here. So with a little gift pack from this church. Well, I do meet with the Holy Spirit here quite powerfully during worship. And I got great pleasure in giving them out to people when I felt led. If somebody that you pass at a bus station starts chatting to you and you get in a conversation with them, and you just know it's appropriate that you should give them one, you ask them, would you like one? And they either say yes or no. So normally I don't give them out unless the person really wants one, But in my own street, I made an exception because, I felt like, well, if I can't reach the lost in my own street, where does it start, So I posted them all along the street, just where I live, not every street, because I wouldn't usually do it that way. And then I seriously got falsely accused for that by someone, and there's always one, everyone else didn't mind. And yet Jehovah's Witnesses are knocking door to door and literally bombarding people with conversations whether they like it or not. And here am I being singled out for quoting the scriptures, So they went to try and falsely accuse me of something just from that, when I was kind of guilty of not giving out enough, if I'm really fair about it. That was what I was repenting for. And, I was learning to just be more accommodating to the Lord, That was the direction God was taking me. And then I suddenly got scapegoated a little bit, but then I realised that it was a fraud. And I wrote to the top and said it was a fraud. And eventually they made a decision that it was, and that they weren't interested in it anymore, and they were going to just leave it, And I got a formal letter to say that, so that was that. But what I then discovered was, before they made that decision, then somebody passed it on in a report to the council. So they're not supposed to do that, because until the decision is made what to do with it, they shouldn't be passed on reports, because they've labelled you before a decision's been made, where they're gonna formally investigate you, and they decided not to in the end. And I wasn't guilty of anything, so apart from loving God, and they passed a report on before the decision was made, and it was really, really smearing me, as if to say that I wasn't thinking clearly because I was quoting scriptures in this tract, and it was a really damning report. And they uploaded it, and I wrote to the council and I said, this shouldn't have been passed on, because here's the PSD letter to say that it was formally dropped, and that was the end of it. They gave me a formal date of when it was decided. So but they carried on refusing to take it off. So then I issued them with proceedings, you've got 28 days to take it off, because if you don't, then you're breaking the law against me. And then this is what it's called plausible deniability, where it was the police's fault for passing it on when they shouldn't have, but then they passing the buck onto the person who uploaded it, and the council's passing the buck onto the person who uploaded it, but really it was the police's fault for giving it to them in the first place. That's plausible deniability, is when they commit a crime against you, yet they're going to make up things against you that aren't true and then drop them. They'll try and accuse you of anything you haven't done, and then when it's them, they'll just use plausible deniability to just blame it on, one will blame it on one and another one will blame it on another, and you can never really pin it down to whose fault it was. And you can't really get an answer out of them as to whose fault it was that committed the crime against me, which is like compensation crime, you know, take it off or pay me money, you know. And the Lord was saying to me that if he had done the whole lot, like healed the illness, the whole thing, then like all the like slanderous comments that the GP made against me, even when it was proven that he was wrong, and even admitted in his own admission that it was neurological. So before they found it was neurological, there was this banter going on that it was psychosomatic. But then finally they did the MRI scans and they operated on me, and it was kind of a drawn conclusion that it wasn't psychosomatic, that it was actually lesions, and it was labelled appropriately as an infection. But the issue was they never gave me the name of the infection, so I couldn't actually. It's taken me 10 years to try and research what I had, you know, and then spend most of my money on treatments to get rid of it. And in the end, the surgeons just said, you have to kind of manage the pain. They kind of fobbed me off, like they kind of said, we don't know what it is, you'll have to manage the pain and you have to live with it. And I said to them, I don't want to live with it, I want you to cure me, you know. I feel like you're fobbing me off. So there was an admission that it wasn't psychosomatic, and it even got to the point of a brain tumour at one point, because the cyst went deeper into the actual head and penetrated through the bone, and at one point I was even offered a brain biopsy. So how can you actually say that that is psychosomatic when a top brain surgeons are offering you a biopsy, you know? And yet the GPs were like making slanderous comments throughout this whole history. And you know, when I left them and I asked them to give me the reports about their blood tests that they did, because I felt they were hiding information, they refused to give me the blood tests. They refused to give me the urinary tract tests and the stool tests they did. So they were just refusing to give me their tests. And it just got from bad to worse, because I also found that behind the scenes they were paying people that I was paying privately to give me serology tests, private serology tests. They were paying people to not give me the results, because they knew that if I got the results, then I would instantly have a legal action against them, which I haven't activated. So they were paying people off, so the limitation period would run out and I couldn't sue them, you know. They were really smarmy. And the Lord made it clear to me that if he had totally killed me straight away, they would have just said that the whole thing was in my mind, and they would have just said that before the diagnostics were equivocally clear, that I would have just got labelled as a nutter, and they would have killed me another way, because they knew that I didn't want to be vaxxed. They absolutely knew that, because I gave them a religious exemption letter from Calvary Chapel, which is very clear for those people who don't want vaxxers. And it seems that ever since, you know, he's been talking against the vax, and ever since I got one, these people just didn't want to help me with what I had. They just didn't want to give me any assistance with it at all. So, like, the Lord was making it clear that if he had completely just healed me, they would have just turned around and said that the whole thing was mental all along, even though I've got records of all the operation I've had and, like, the actual care I've had in relation to this infection. And then they would have just killed me another way, you know, because the same GPs were deleting my heart records, and I've